Hello there. My name is Noah Bennett, and I want to thank you for being here with me tonight. Before we begin our story, I invite you to take a few quiet moments just for yourself. Find a comfortable position. Let your shoulders soften. Rest your hands wherever they feel most at ease. If you wish, gently close your eyes. Now, take a slow, gentle breath in and count quietly. 1, 2, 3. Then exhale, even slower. 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's do that 2 more times, as if each breath is a soft autumn drizzle, washing away the noise of the day. Tonight I continue my Campervan series, and tonight you will be driving through a beautiful, rainy landscape in the land of Norway. And as you drive, with no particular destination in mind, you will listen to a podcast about the ancient people of this land. You will also listen to a podcast about what it's like to live in Norway today, before finally parking up and curling up with a good book in your cozy campervan. Okay, let's do the relaxation session now, which will take a few minutes before tonight's sleep story. I'm going to count down from 10 to 1, and as I do, allow yourself to let go more and more. 10. Feel the support of the bed beneath you, or the floor, or whatever you lie upon tonight. Really feel that support. And beneath all of that, there is the support of the earth, our home, our constant support. And notice that the more you become aware of that support, the more you can let go, the more you can sink into this moment. 9. You are safe. Know that tonight my voice is nothing but a friend, a guide of kindness that will only ever take you to safe places. Allow my voice to be an anchor of peace, guiding you to beautiful, wondrous places. 8. Become aware of your body now, and as you do, just become aware of your breath for a moment. Perhaps take a deep breath in through your nose when you're ready, and breathe out when you're ready. And maybe another deep breath in and out. And as you become aware of that breath, the breathing out with each out-breath, let go a little more. Maybe move through your body. Check where you're holding tension or pain. Maybe it's in your feet, your lower legs, your thighs, your belly, your chest, your back or shoulders, your hands, your arms, your neck. Or maybe you're like me. Do you hold the tension in your face? Just let it all go now. 7. The day is done. Whatever has been, has been. Whatever will be, will be. Whatever thoughts you may be having, don't fight them. Just see them for what they are. Thoughts. A symptom of being human. And as they arrive, welcome them. And then just let them go. Watch them float away like leaves on a moonlit river, or clouds passing through a starlit sky. 6. This is your moment. This is your time. You deserve rest. You deserve peace. There is nowhere to be now, nowhere to go. No obligations. Absolutely nothing to do but settle into this moment. 5. Peace lives within you. It is always there. It's just waiting to be found, waiting to be felt. Maybe you can find it tonight. Maybe you can journey to that peace with your mind's eye. Now, maybe you find it in your chest or in your head. Wherever you might find it, know that it's a constant friend. For perhaps feel a little gratitude now. Gratitude for the simple things, for the shelter you have tonight, whatever it may be. The use of your body or the ability to just lie here and listen to a sleep story. For those you love and who love you, know that you are loved, whoever you are and wherever you are tonight. 3. Begin to engage with your imagination. Now begin to see a beautiful fjord, tall, high cliffs around you, and you are cozily in your campervan, feeling curious, far away from all that you know. 2. Check in with your body one more time now, releasing anywhere that you're still holding on. And 1. Completely letting go now. As I tell you tonight's sleep story. You are in Norway, that wonderful land, Vikings and fjords and mountains that rise up out of lakes. This is a day that feels just right. It's just you and the campervan and the road, and you aren't going anywhere in particular. You're just driving. Driving to see the world around you. To see the beauty contained in the smallest of details and the grandest of vistas. This is a time just for you. The road is quiet and gentle beneath the tires. It moves with an easy source of confidence, bending where it wants to, lifting slightly here, dipping there. The van follows without complaint, happy to go wherever the day decides to take it. The fjord rests to your right, long and smooth, catching the soft light in a way that feels calm without trying. Pine trees line the edge of the road in loose clusters, tall and watchful. Every so often, a gap opens up and you catch a clear view across the water. Far in the distance, the dark shape of a ferry glides along, almost silent. A tiny white wake follows it, like a quiet thought. Inside the van, it's warm and still and cozy. A barrier to the rain falling outside, and you settle into the rhythm of the drive, letting it do what it does best, stretch time out. There's no rush here. The hum of the engine is steady, the kind of sound that quietly keeps you company without asking anything from you. You pass a sign for a village with a name you can't pronounce. It flashes by, neat and blue, and disappears into the mirror. You smile a little, without meaning to. You like not knowing where you're going. You like that the road knows, even if you don't. The van moves on, carrying you through this quiet northern landscape. A stretch of stillness, a steady road, and the soft feeling of being exactly where you need to be. You decide to listen to a podcast, one that is about the people and the land around you. Well, the people of the past, that is, it begins, and the voice comes through. Welcome to the Vikings, a misunderstood people. The voice is soft, clear, and unhurried. The sort of voice that sounds like it has been telling stories for a very long time. When most people hear the word Viking, the voice begins. They picture raids, longships, and the clash of steel on foreign shores. They imagine warriors, axes raised, sails stretched tight against the wind. But this image, powerful though it may be, tells only a fraction of their story. Outside your window, the fjord rolls past slowly, quite mesmerizingly beautiful in this rain. The voice continues. For here in the valleys and along these cold, quiet waters lived a people who for most of their lives were not warriors at all. They were farmers, fishers, carpenters, traders, mothers and fathers, children and elders. They lived ordinary lives in extraordinary landscapes. Their world was shaped not just by conquest, but by soil and sea, by the steady rhythm of the seasons. The tone is steady, measured, the way someone speaks when they trust the story to do the work. The Viking Age began around the late 8th century, but its roots run much deeper. These fjords, these winding rivers and broad valleys have held communities for thousands of years. Long before the first ships were built, people fished in these waters. They farmed along these slopes. They learned to live with the long winters, to store food carefully, to work with what the land gave them, and no more. A soft pause. The van rolls forward. The Viking home was not a castle nor a fortress. It was a longhouse, warm, smoky, built from timber and turf. Inside, families gathered around a central hearth, the single source of light and teeth. Smoke would curl up toward the rafters and drift through a hole in the roof. Outside animals were kept close, not just for food, but for warmth. The longhouse was not just a building, it was a way of surviving. And although we speak of Vikings as if they were one people, they were never a single united tribe. They came from many small communities across Norway, Sweden, Denmark, and beyond, connected not by kings, but by shared customs, beliefs, and the endless pull of the sea. Another soft pause. You can hear the engine beneath the story, steady and low. Perhaps as you listen to the podcast and look out at the beautiful landscape, something in you settles even more. Now, maybe you enjoy that feeling of being able to be curious, one of the nicest states of mind a human can experience. Everything else just falls away as you continue to look out through the window and listen and learn about these ancient people. The voice continues. Norway, the land through which you now drive, gave them fjords that cut deep into the coast, natural harbors, sheltered inlets, quiet places to build ships and to set out when the world beyond cool. It is easy now to see this land as peaceful, but in its time it was also demanding. Winters were long, summers short. Life was shaped by patience, resourcefulness, and a certain kind of stubborn grace. For most Vikings, the day began long before the sun climbed over the mountains. The farms of Norway were small, and stubborn. They clung to the sides of valleys and fjords, wherever the soil would allow. Barley, rye, and oats were the backbone of their fields. Goats and sheep grazed on steep pastures, nimble enough to find their way where cattle could not. A good year was not a luxury. It was survival. Contrary to the myths, life in these early communities was not built on endless war. It was built on rhythm, the rhythm of planting, of mending nets, of patching sails, of storing grain against the long winter. Each family worked not for glory, but simply so that the next season might arrive with enough bread, enough firewood, enough hope to continue. A small rise in the road ahead gives you a broader view of the valley. Pine forests stretch down towards the water. It looks untouched, but the podcast explains otherwise. These landscapes were not empty. They were busy, invisible to us now, but alive then, with people cutting wood, tending animals, gathering berries, hauling nets through water. They lived in close connection to the land, not by choice, but by necessity. Every element of the natural world had a place in their story. Every tree, every stream, every rock carried a use, a meaning, a name. The fjords gave them fish, cod, herring, salmon, the lifeblood of their diet. From the forests came timber to build long houses and ships. From the mountains came iron, which they smelted with quiet skill. They were not only sailors, they were artisans, weavers, blacksmiths, storytellers, healers, and most of all, they were people who understood the art of living with the land, that asked much and gave little in turn. Even their ships, the vessels that carried them far from these shores, were not built for war alone. They were light, flexible, and strong, designed as much for trade as for battle. They slipped through rivers, crossed open seas, and could be carried over land when the water ran out. These were not crude raiders. These were master builders, navigators, and traders who understood their world with astonishing precision. The campervan continues along the road. The voice continues to fill the air. The rain continues to fall outside. And you continue to sink deeper into this moment. The voice goes on. It is easy, centuries later, to paint history in simple strokes. Vikings as raiders, Vikings as conquerors. But most of their lives were spent not with sword in hand, but with soil beneath their nails. They laughed. They argued. They raised children. They told stories by the fire on nights that stretched too long. And as you drive this road, you drive through the heart of that history. These valleys, these fjords, these quiet slopes. They remember not through ruins or castles, but through their shape, their silence, their patience. The Vikings lived in a world where the land itself was alive. Every stone, every tree, every turn of the wind belonged to something greater than them. Their gods were not distant figures hidden in the clouds. Their gods lived here, in the thunder above the fjords, in the forests, the crack and shift of ice. Odin, or father, was a seeker of knowledge, willing to give anything for wisdom. Thor, with his hammer, defended against chaos. Freya watched over love and life and the fine threads that held everything together. And then there were the countless others, spirits of the water, of the forest, of the home. Outside the van, The road narrows slightly, and the trees draw in close, their trunks dark and wet. Mist hangs between the branches like smoke from a fire that never goes out. The voice moves through it without pause. They did not build great temples. Their places of worship were often here in the open air. Sacred groves, quiet clearings, stones that had stood since the beginning of memory. To live in this landscape was to live inside their faith. They did not stand apart from it. They were part of it. The Viking view of the world was shaped by cycles, life and death, summer and winter, growth and return. They believed in a tree at the center of all things, Egg Russell, the world tree. Its branches reached the heavens. Its roots threaded through the underworld, and all 9 realms were held in its span. To them, this was not just a story, it was the shape of reality. Their lives unfolded beneath its branches. The voice softens, letting the weight of the story settle. They understood impermanence. The world they believed would end one day in Ragnarok. Not in a flash, but in a long, hard fight between order and chaos. And yet, even with this knowledge, they lived fully. They farmed, they built, they sailed, they loved, they raised children. The van moves through a long stretch where the fjord reappears. The water is so beautiful here. It just helps you really feel the peace of the world. In many ways, the voice continues, this is what made their world so rich. A belief system that did not separate the sacred from the everyday. A God in the sky, yes, but also a God in the waterfall, in the hearth, in the sound of the wind pressing against the longhouse walls. They did not have to search for meaning. They lived inside it. In Viking society, the voice continues, power was rarely a crown on a single head. It rested in the hands of communities. Villages and small settlements scattered along the fjords were not ruled from some distant throne, but guided by gatherings. These were meetings of free people, where decisions were made not behind closed doors, but under the open sky. A small pause, almost like the narrator is looking out the same window you are. This is how they lived. Not in endless chaos, but in small, careful networks of people who depended on one another, who worked the land together, who built together, who disagreed and forgave, and started again. But for all their deep roots here in the valleys and along the fjords, the Vikings were also a people of movement. Their ships carried them farther than almost anyone of their age. Not just to raid, as stories often claim, but to trade, to settle, to learn, and to return home again. The van moves along a stretch of road that hugs the water closely. The fjord seems endless now, lost in the mist. The long ship was the key, the voice says softly. A narrow, elegant vessel, built with a precision that still astonishes modern shipbuilders. Its hull was flexible, made to bend and breathe with the sea. Its shallow draft meant it could glide not only across open ocean, but up rivers and through narrow channels. It could be hauled across land when necessary. From these fjords they set out across the North Sea to the British Isles, to Ireland, to the rivers of France, the coasts of Spain, and further. Still they sailed east into what is now Russia, threading their way through rivers and forests, trading furs, iron, anther, and wool. They sailed west to Iceland, Greenland, and even reached the shores of North America long before Columbus dreamed of it. They were, quite simply, some of the greatest navigators of their time. Navigation was done without maps, without compasses. They read the wind, the sun, the stars, the flight of birds, the shape of the waves. They learned the language of the sea, and it spoke to them clearly. When the world today seems full of noise, it is almost difficult to imagine how quiet it must have been there. The soft creep of wood, the pull of the oars, the hiss of water along the hull. A ferry crosses the water far ahead. Its lights small against the landscape. It almost looks like a longship in the mist, and you think of the people you are learning about. The voice continues. Every era comes to an end, though it rarely announces itself. The Viking Age was no different. It didn't end in a single battle or a sudden collapse. It ended slowly, like the tide pulling back from the shore. Over the centuries, new forces began to shape their world. Christianity arrived along the same trade routes they had sailed. At first, quietly. Priests, merchants, foreign kings with gifts and promises. Then, more steadily, with churches built where sacred groves once stood. One belief slowly folded over another. The old gods did not vanish in a single night. They lingered, as old gods often do, tucked into stories, hidden in language, carried like stones in a pocket. At the same time, kingdoms grew. Small communities that at once answered only to themselves began to fall under larger rule. Norway gathered itself into one realm. Farms and fjords that had long belonged to families were folded into the fabric of a nation. The great voyages slowed. The longships were used less for distant shores and more for local waters. The world changed its shape. The road begins to dip gently now, curving down toward the water's edge again. A few scattered houses appear in the distance, their windows glowing faintly. A final pause in the podcast. Only the sound of the van and the rain and the soft landscape outside. And so as you drive through this country they once called home, you travel not just through Norway. You travel through 1,000 years of footsteps, voices, and stories. Their age has passed, but it has never really left. The road runs 15 beneath the tires, holding a steady line along the fjord. You breathe in through your nose and let it out slowly through your mouth. A soft rhythm that seems to fall in step with the engine. You look ahead, and even though it's raining, you see light filtering through the clouds above. Not bright, not dark, just quiet. Your shoulders drop a little now. The van feels like an extension of you. The steering wheel fits your hands perfectly. Every bend in the road feels familiar. Even though you've never been here before, you don't have to do much. Just breathe and let the road decide where it wants to lead you. A flock of small birds lifts from a pine tree as you pass. They move together without needing to speak, turning in one smooth arc, disappearing into the mist. You watch them without hurry. Their movement feels like a kind of calm in motion. You rest your hand on the window frame, feeling the faint coolness of the glass. A single drop slides down it, tracing a slow line. You follow it with your eyes, and for a moment there's nothing else to do but that. In the distance, the outline of a small boathouse appears, sitting at the edge of the water. The wood is dark, weathered by years of salt and wind. The air smells different here. Damp pine, clean earth, and something faintly salty from the water. It slips into the van each time the breeze finds a way in. You breathe it in fully, letting it settle into you like a familiar blanket. Your breath deepens without you meaning it to. The in-breath builds the quiet. The out-breath clears the small corners of your mind. There's no story to follow now, no destination to reach, just the slow unfolding of a road that knows how to be patient. Your breath builds the leveling. You decide to put on another podcast. This one, much more from the present day. It's about Norway and what it's like to live here in this day and age. The voice begins. Well, Norway is one of those countries that feels like it's been here forever, minding its own business. If you ask most Norwegians what it's like to live here, they'll probably shrug and say, pretty good. And that's exactly what it is. People often imagine F's and snow when they think of Norway. The voice continues, and they wouldn't be wrong. But most Norwegians don't live on a mountain or in a forest cabin. They live in towns and small cities where things run on time. The buses are clean, and nobody honks at you just for existing. The host talks about the rhythm of the week. There's this nice sense of balance. Work ends on time. Shops close early, and no one seems to think it's the end of the world if something has to wait until Monday. It's like the country has decided not to be in a rush. They move on to winter. The dark season is real here. There are months where the sun just brushes the horizon and disappears again. But people have learned to make peace with it. They light candles, wear warm socks, and make strong coffee. Instead of fighting the dark, they sort of lean into it. The host explains how people use that time. Winter becomes a season of quiet. Folks meet up with friends or head out to ski trails that seem to stretch into another world. Even in Oslo, you can step off a tram and find yourself in a snowy forest within minutes. Then comes summer, when the sun finally shows up. It's like the entire country comes out of hibernation. People sit outside cafes at 10 at night. Faces turned to the light. Kids run around barefoot. Nobody wants to go to bed. And honestly, who can blame them? They talk about everyday kindness. There's something very calm about the way Norwegians interact. They don't fill silence with chatter. If there's nothing to say, they just enjoy the quiet. And somehow it doesn't feel awkward. It feels respectful. The host laughs softly. Of course it's not perfect. Groceries are expensive, and you learn quickly to love frozen pizza because it costs half of everything else. They talk about trust. One of the nicest things about Norway is how much people trust one another. Kids walk to school alone. People leave proms outside cafes while they drink coffee. There's this sense that the world isn't out to get you. It's also a country that really loves nature. You don't have to be some hardcore hiker to fit in. Even if you just go for a walk around the lake, that counts. Norwegians believe in being outside, even when it rains, especially when it rains. And then a closing smile in their voice. So when you're driving through Norway in your campervan or car, and you pass those neat little houses and the mountains in the distance, you're seeing a country that has learned to live well without shouting about it. It's not a bad way to do things. The podcast ends. The light has that late day weight to it now. Not dark, but soft enough to make everything seem a little slower, a little kinder. You ease the van gently around a curve, and then you see it. A small lay-by that opens onto a wide view of the water. No houses, no roads beyond this one. Just a strip of earth, a few trees, and the fjord stretching out as far as it wants to go. You pull in and cut the engine. You open the door and step down, boots pressing into the damp ground. The air has that clean, sharp edge that only seems to appear in Norway at the end of the day. Pine, water, and a hint of wood smoke drifting from somewhere unseen. You stretch a little and take some deep breaths, and then you go to the back of the campervan. There, the kettle is waiting. The little pan is waiting. The small gas hub clicks softly to life, and you begin to cook. You stir without really thinking about it. The rain continues to fall outside. And do you feel cozy inside? You sit down with your food. The first bite. It's warm, grounding. The sky is beginning to shift now. Clouds, moving. Rain, falling. After you've eaten, you click a little lamp on that creates a soft glow. You ease yourself into the comfortable seat, stretch your legs out, and pick up a book. It falls open easily, and you begin to read. I left Bergen on a Tuesday morning. It starts. The air was clear. I followed the old road that runs along the fjord, the same way farmers and fishermen once walked when the world moved at the speed of their own feet. And with each step, the noise of cities, trains, and everything else that fills modern life began to peel away like bark from an old tree. The fjords start to rush. They don't rise to greet you. They simply remain patient, unbothered by your presence. I walked for days without needing a reason to. I saw houses that looked like they had stood against the wind for centuries. I passed through valleys where the only sound was the wind turning through the grass. And the deeper I walked, the smaller I felt. Not in a frightening way, but in a way that made sense. It is hard to explain to someone who has never walked through this country just how steady everything feels. Norway doesn't try to impress you. It doesn't perform. It lets you find the beauty yourself. Some days the sky opened up and the light poured over everything like it was trying to remember how to be gold. Other days the mist sat low and the world was made of 5 colors: gray, green, water, stone, and breath. When night came, I slept by the water. No walls, no noise except the sound of the fjord breathing beneath the stars. I never felt alone here, not once, because the land itself was company. And somewhere along that walk, I stopped trying to find the extraordinary. I started noticing the ordinary. The shape of a rock, the smell of wet moss, the faint outline of a distant farm. And I realized with a kind of quiet certainty that This is the great secret of these spirits.
They do not need to change to be remarkable. They simply are.
You close the book slightly, but keep your finger between the pages. The words linger in the air, as if they've joined the landscape outside. You lean back against the soft cushion, the book steady in your hands. The world outside has quieted to a hush now. You breathe in slowly. You let your eyes close. The sound of rain moves into your ears like a lullaby, written for no one in particular. There is no story left to follow, no roads left to travel, just this small space, wrapped up against the night. Safe, steady, yours. The rain keeps falling. The van holds you gently, and sleep begins.